Episode 89 here of the pod. Let me just double check. Yep, episode 89 of the All In podcast. Let's give you some insights and some original thoughts on my side. Also, I'll read some of the comments from the actual All In podcast. You know, everyone that leaves comments out there, I love them. Like, I look forward to the comments out there just as much as listening to the pod. So make sure you guys keep bringing the comments. Always some good insights, some different views. You catch things that were maybe said wrong or were just plain wrong. The comments on this, the comment section can often just be a dumpster fire in a lot of places. Not here, man. There's a lot of value just in the comment section. So I'll read some of those in a minute. With that being said, it did feel like for this episode that the vibe is back. And I wonder if it's like that sports team where I'm trying to think of a TV show called Ballers, and I think one of the players slept with someone's mom or something. But, it was that vibe of in the locker room where it's like, oh, man, you banged my mom. But you know what? Let's put all our differences aside for this one podcast, and we'll deal with this later. And maybe they got together and said, hey, let's just do a good episode. And that's what this kind of felt like. Now, I think, and this is my own opinion, right? My opinion doesn't mean jack. I just feel like if they left the petty politics aside, I would be more interested in this show. And when I say petty, I think, everyone has their own slant on politics. They have their own ideals, their own views. But when it starts becoming like the bickering and you got to take the shots, I don't like it. I think a lot of the audience doesn't like it. It makes them look petty. And then it creates this infighting. Because that's what you saw happen. You watch families get torn apart in the last 2 years over politics. And, it's one of those things. I put a sign on my door at Thanksgiving. Like, I'm trying to deep fry some turkeys. I'm building a bonfire out back. Like, we're trying to eat, drink, and just have fun. And it's like, I got to have two couches, right? The Fox News people over here, and then like the CNN people over here. I put a sign on my door, and you talk politics, I'm throwing you out face first. Maybe out like just like a first story window, right? Not enough to hurt you, just enough to make the point. We're here to have fun today. It's family, it's friends. Let's eat, let's drink, let's watch the Lions lose football, like we always do. No one wants that, and I feel like that's what the pod gets into sometimes. Sachs will, he's definitely anti-Biden, right? I mean, he doesn't hide it. And then as he's going anti-Biden, Jay Cal's got to constantly interrupt because you could tell he's fighting for his home team. It's like, I don't really want to listen to Sachs talk about Biden because it's the least interesting part of the show to me. But let him finish, right? And you find Jay Cal doing that a lot where they all do that. They all kind of cut each other off, and it just disrupts the show. So I say get rid of the petty politics. It's if when I say petty, it's that when you're trying to defend your party, I don't care what party you're for. I'm not listening to this goddamn show to watch you defend your party like you're a gang member. Let's talk policy. Let's talk about where things went right, where things went wrong. Let's not make it personal. And then when things get personal, you watch the vibe on the show go away. And then I think the listeners don't like that either. So there's my advice to the pod is drop the petty politics, or hell, politics at all of it. Let's talk market. Let's talk economy. Let's talk startups, private equity, venture capital, currencies, cryptos. This, get Friedberg in there. Let's talk some science. Another, killer episode with Friedberg. This is what I want to listen to. Let's talk about, Chamath making another bad investment. There's so much other more interesting things to talk about than the politics, and especially the personal defense of petty politics. Let it go. So they started off, and it's hard because this stuff's kind of intertwined. And that's why I said let's don't make it personal. But the GDP growth, right? They got into that. They were talking about how, I think Chamath was talking about, maybe the classic definition or looking at the statistics. You saw the huge decline in, GDP for the for COVID there. You saw the huge rebound. And then what I found was interesting, if you go back and look at that chart, is, again, I often look at charts and you can like look at things high and then things low, and then you can kind of just figure out where the average is. Again, excuse me, terrible cold. Just by kind of looking at the levels of things and saying, okay, this should be right around 105. You saw the huge decline and the huge spike; those balance each other out, and then you saw the next few quarters come up, and they were pretty chunky, growth segments. Compare that to pre-COVID, and they're significantly higher than the pre-COVID trajectory, and that was the effect of all the money getting pumped into the system. Now, how long does that trend last? Do we really regress back to where we were pre-COVID, or will there be a hangover for an extended period of time with all the money that was pumped into the system? And I think that's going to come down to how far the stock market and cryptos go down, and then the housing market. If they stay up, maybe the growth starts to, test those levels of where they were. But if the housing market comes down and crypto, all asset classes kind of readjust and kind of come back down from, their sky high numbers. Maybe the growth numbers aren't going to be what they were for those, 12 months trailing the COVID rebound. So, again, I understand that that's going to get intertwined with politics. Look, I think Trump printed a bunch of money. I think Biden printed a bunch of money. The government's this is what they do. It's the only thing they know how to do is create laws and spend money. They never find a way to get rid of stupid laws and spend less money. This is the world we live in. Trying not to cough. So they got that, they're trying to rewrite the definition of recession, which me personally, I think is the issue right now. You see the news, some news kind of defending it. You see some people not talking about it at all. You also see some people hoping you're in a recession. I think the Fox News headline said, we're officially in a recession, right? Where CNN might post something. I'm not saying they did, but an example, or CNBC might say something, we're in a slowdown. Does that mean a recession? They'll word it differently. But it makes sense. If you look in history, I wouldn't doubt the Republicans are hoping for a recession because it would help them in the midterm, right? And the Democrats are trying to do everything they can to not present the idea of a recession so it helps them in the midterm. Now, if things are flipped and the Republicans had control right now, it'd be the same way. They would be trying to fend off a recession, and the Democrats would be hoping for a recession. And then I think, people will say, oh, that's not true. No, I mean, if you look at history, these people don't care. Never underestimate that what someone's willing to do that's in power to keep power. I've seen it on the streets growing up. And the streets will teach you more than anything that college and the rest of the world will teach you. People in power on the street will do whatever they can to keep that power. I've seen it in the business world that people that have power and authority, they want to keep it by any means necessary. And God, if we don't know that about politicians, then we don't know anything. So it's like there's toying with this, are we in a recession or not? Look, are we in a full-blown, the world's coming to an end recession? Right now, no. Can we say that this is the initial sniff of a recession and things are trending downward in the first half of the year? I think that's the technical recession. We have had contraction. There's obviously some pullback in the market. And instead of trying to defend it, we should just say, okay, we acknowledge that this is an issue. And then talk about how we're going to do better. They're getting way too defensive. They're trying to redefine things. I just don't. They're gonna fight like hell to make sure that there's not a third quarter. Now, I think the third quarter numbers would probably come out post-election. I mean, was it August, September? I guess should. But if there's the thought that, going into October that we are into another quarter of contraction, that's going to cause issues. They're going to scratch and claw not to make that happen. And they're already trying to fight that off now by redefining things. So good insights there. The next segment we had the COVID trends. So I found this to be pretty interesting because I own a handful of companies that do recruiting and executive search. Listening to clients right now is not fun. Everybody, everybody from small to large companies, to my friends that work at large Fortune 100s and executive roles, it's tough. And they were talking a lot about. I think Freeberger's talking about even like Apple and these companies can't get people to come back into the office, trying to find out a way to measure metrics. It's tough. And I don't know if it's going to. You can get away with things right now only because the job market's hot. And another company I own does like career services and outplacement, performance coaching. We got a career portal launching. And there's this thing we talk about that the great firing's coming. Because that company we own does outplacement. If you know what outplacement is, cool. If not, it's companies hire us to help their displaced employees go back to work faster. And from between the recruiting business and the outplacement business, we have a pretty good pulse on the market about what's going on. There's not a company out there right now that isn't holding on to people that they would love to fire, but they can't because there's not enough people in the workforce to replace them. And there's a whole bunch of people that as soon as the market turns down a little bit, as soon as there's a little bit of improvement in the liquidity of the talent pool, there's going to be a lot of people getting canned. And I think it was either Freeberg or Tremath maybe that was talking about like ghost quitting or something was the term, where you basically just stop working or you do the absolute bare minimum to not get fired. And you're talking to companies right now that are dealing with that. And having a warm body that's present 15 hours a week, even though you're paying them with 40, is better than not having anybody at all. You're dealing with customer service, product, shipping, all that stuff. But do you think that you're not going to be the first person to get fired when things change in the market? And you see how quick people will take advantage of situations. Look, if you're trying to get somewhere in life, I'm saying don't do that. The professional, stay professional. You get paid, do your work, keep grinding, keep moving. People will often complain all day long about how unethical companies are, but how is it that you just like won't work for 3 days and still get paid and tell your employer you were working when you were on the beach? That's kind of where we're at in this world right now. And there's going to be a price to pay. And I think this shift is coming. I don't think people are going to be ready for that wake up call. And when that shift does come, will your crypto money be there? Your GameStop money is probably not going to. All this money that you were kind of banking on is going to evaporate. And then you're going to lose that job and you're going to think it's easy to get another job. But, I lived through running my companies, through 2000 crash. I made it through the 2008 crash. I made it through the COVID crash. I've lived through 3 of these recessions. It's not easy. It's just not easy. And so I thought that was a pretty interesting conversation in the whole, ghost quitting. And I just one of those people. It's like, I got to show up. And if you're paying me to work, I'm working. I don't care what it is. I'm not going to say I don't get paid to do that. Dude, I'm here to work. That's how I built my consulting business when I was in my early 20s. That's how I built my other companies. I am here to work. And I would never sit there and just say, I'm going to take your money and not do my job. But that's where we're at as a society right now. Something else they mentioned is, it might have been Freeberg. Freeberg killed it on this episode. Talking about in-laws or something never used DoorDash in the past, but then COVID kind of forced them to use DoorDash and delivery services. But now things are kind of going back to normal. And I'll give you 2 examples. I own / invested in, bars and restaurants throughout the country. The bars, for example, they're pretty much back to where they were. Things have, that's an experience, right? You're going out, cocktails, drinks, after work. A good point they made on the pod today. You're working from home all day, then you want to get out of the house, so you're more likely to go out to the bar. That part, those companies, the bars have bounced back pretty good. Lifestyle, like Friday, Saturday night, date night, bars done well. The restaurants that are kind of more carry out, it's still doing great, but still down from when everyone was doing carry out. Not carry out. Yeah, well, I mean carry out in terms of when you couldn't dine in at restaurants, right? When it was only kind of carry out or delivery, that was the peak, and then things have come down. Still, still doing okay, but you can definitely tell that people are back in that mode of eating out. So things are kind of getting back to normal, but not all the way. Still some people that won't eat out in a restaurant, and I think that's some of the people you see that are still frequently coming in and doing the carryouts once or twice a week, for example. So I know people personally that still won't eat out. They won't go to gyms. They won't go to movie theaters. They're still relatively cautious. So again, some good sites there. What else we have? Next up, the Inflation Reduction Act. I've been swamped the last 2 weeks, and I'm like, what is this thing? Like, we come up with this whole new bill out of nowhere, and then I realize I'm looking it up while I'm listening to the pod, and they bring up that it's basically the trim down, build back better or slash like I don't know, green energy, environmental type bill. And it's like, this doesn't really sound. And they're making fun of the title, right? Are they? I think J Cal was saying, what, they trolling us with the damn titles of these bills? It's like, maybe it reduces inflation on certain things by like 5%, and that gives you enough authority to name the whole goddamn bill after it. I mean, to me, I feel like spending any money right now at a time when this country's got way too much money is just a bad idea. And we're talking about spending $700 billion or something, is what I heard. Now, maybe I'm wrong. It's like, again, we can only spend money. We can spend money and create laws. We can't get rid of laws, and we can't spend less money. We can only spend more forking money. So they're picking apart this bill, and I think they're talking about some of these subsidies, and they're doing a subsidy for electric vehicles again. If you want a good, I just caught a series by, I think, TFL Truck. They bought the Ford electric truck, and they tried doing like a long range trip with it. Entertaining as hell. Go watch that thing. I got a Hummer EV SUV on order. I'm a car culture person. I got classic cars, classic trucks. I got race cars. I got a diesel truck. I got all the stuff. Love cars. I don't mind having an EV. I'm not anti-EV. But the EV would be the run around town here and there. I would never go on a trip, or if I was very busy, I just never deal with it. The TFL truck, the series they're doing right now, go watch that. It will change your mind about buying an electric vehicle right now, especially if you don't live in a major metropolitan area with a ton of chargers, and if you travel long distances. Great series. We're a ways away from the average American being able to afford and utilize an electric vehicle the way they're intended to, just having a vehicle every day. But again, this bill is going to have more subsidies in it. Yeah, man, if you go through the bill, it's crazy what we're spending. I get we're moving towards green energy. Maybe certain things we're moving too fast. I grew up without much money. It was one of those things I joke about it, but it's true. You got an old ass car because that's all you could afford. You're 16, 17 years old. The damn thing wouldn't start. The starter's locked up. You're crawling under the car in the winter. You're beating on the starter, hoping you can knock the thing loose to get your car started. It was like $200 to get a starter fixed, but you didn't have $200. Could you imagine having an electric car and then the battery's $20,000? There was no one on my block that had $20,000. You out of your mind right now? No one on my block probably had $5,000. I think we're a little delusional about getting everybody on these things the way they are right now. Maybe 5-10 years from now, they're affordable. This shit ain't affordable where I came from, and probably not for most Americans. So we'll see. Anyways, it seems like this inflation bill really isn't about inflation, and I gotta imagine spending all that money might cause more inflation. So that's just a random thought on my side. Anyways, what else did we have? Yeah, it was just nice to see the vibe, though, I'll tell you. When they started bickering, you wanted to kind of just turn the show off. Then they went into the Alzheimer's fraud, which I only caught a little bit. I just kind of skipped through this part. I saw the headlines this week. I mean, nothing surprises me anymore. I mean, you think like some of the most ethical people in the world, you come to find out aren't. I skipped through there, caught a little bit of Friedberg, and good stuff. I just wasn't really in the mood for that particular topic, and then the last thing, the Democrats. What's this one? Democrats backing MAGA candidate. I skimmed through that one because I don't care. I hate, man. If I want political content, there's so much political content on YouTube, but you'll never stop. I mean, there's more content created every minute than you can consume about political crap. As far as the strategy goes, I don't know. I could have swore I heard Chamath or Friedberg. Someone said they spent $50 million backing in candidates or backing MAGA candidates or something. I don't understand the strategy, and I think I just think it shouldn't be able to happen. No matter what, because I'm sure the Republicans have done this too, where they went and like tried to back this candidate because they had a better chances of beating this one. If dude, stop using our political system to just get what you want. Both parties do this crap, and then they had a point at the end there I caught where they said, "Well, you're saying the MAGA people were the January 6 people, but you're gonna back a MAGA person." And then give them a chance to get into office who you said are the people we need to worry about. Does this make any sense? And is this really the best use of $50 million? I don't know, man. I'm not following this stuff. I just feel we spend so much money trying to manipulate, our own communities, our political systems. Is this what we should be doing right now? Man, give everyone a set budget for your party. Not even your party, for your candidate. You each get $500,000 for TV commercials. You each get 2 debates, and that's it. Blowing $50 million to like try to get some candidate, and we wonder why the political system is so forked up right now. Because this is the stuff that goes on. Look how much money is raised for political or for presidential elections. It is mind blowing. But this is where we're at right now. Anyways, here's some comments. AJM 8 hours ago. Also says David Sachs, but David Sachs, politicians are going to be as corrupt as the media allows them to be, is the best quote of this episode. I mean, that's true. Isn't that anybody though? People that if you let your friends get over on you, they'll do it again. It's if you're dating someone and you let them cheat on you, they'll do it again. At any time and anywhere, if you let someone take advantage of you, they're going to keep doing it. And I think we used to understand that 20, 30 years ago, where you had to be kind of tough and you didn't give anyone any leeway. Or as I say, giving someone the benefit of doubt is always goddamn expensive to you. They don't. And if we don't allow them to be corrupt, they can't be corrupt. The problem is we keep, on both sides, you keep voting people in that are corrupt. Let's see. It's a rare sight to see Friedberg steal the show. I mean, he's on point, though. I don't know if it's a rarity. Let's see. I like how fired up Friedberg was on. Yeah, he was going. What else we got here? This conversation was gold. I agree. This is a good conversation. Stick to this and a little more politics, and this pod will grow well. Sachs remaining in full composure while getting interrupted is a skill. That's my thing. I think J. Cal does that to him because they bicker back and forth about Trump and Biden, and just get rid of it. We don't want it. We don't want it. Get rid of it. It's petty. It's like two old timers arguing over dinner if they drank too much Bud Light. We don't want to hear it. Stop the pettiness and the bickering. One of the all-time Friedberg best. Friedberg segments were awesome, yeah. Let's see what else we got. The more I watch the pod, the more I realize that J. Cal represents a broader community of people that don't look deeply into issues. and takes things at face value with a strong liberal bent. SAC represents a right and Republican community built on American dream. I mean, that's just summarizing, sure. I agree with Freeberg. EV subsidy not necessary. Yeah, I mean, that was the point I was talking about. Wasteful. And what's more, as the bill stands right now, it will disproportionately benefit and incentivize OEMs to make more hybrids. I mean, Toyota did double down on hybrids. Maybe it's going to pay off. The intro is telling me this will be one of the greats. What other points do we have here? Freeberg is totally right about the EV credits. As much as I'm sure people would like a discount in the car purchase, there's already more demand than supply. That's a good point. I mean, try ordering a Tesla right now. If you watch any of the car channels, it seems pretty difficult. Then again, hell, I tried ordering an F-250 in September last year, and they still can't tell me when it's coming. In the last 2 years, they've changed the definition of the following terms: pandemic, recession, emergency treatment of gain of function, immunity, vaccines. Vaccines. I mean, a lot of things have changed. Let's see. I mean, some good stuff in here. I mean, a lot of Freeberg and a lot of Sachs. I mean, usually it's like Chamath Love Fest. You feel like Sachs and Freeberg really stepped it up on this episode, and just trying to see if there's anything else here. Freeberg was on fire. The EV incentive on the climate bill. So let's call that the climate bill. The EV on the climate bill is a bailout for legacy auto. They can't make EVs profitable without this bill. I mean, hey, Freeberg is right that this is not needed as the transition is already accelerating as the evidenced by high demand and manufacturers can't keep up with production. That's a solid point. Who was that? J.E. Well, that's about all I got. Same stuff, you know. I kind of honed in on the ghost quitting, and COVID stuff, and a lot of people latch on to the EV seems to be the biggest point here, and it's true. When I saw that, I'm just like, do we need to do that right now? But it's like we want to get, they want to get that industry ramped up as much as possible. And my thing is, go watch the TFL truck episode where they take the Lightning on the trip, and if you drive a lot, it's exactly what you think it would be in terms of pain. And it's just not what I'm interested in doing right now. And I tow a lot of stuff. Man, the last thing, if you ever had to stop often when you're towing, I had an FJ Cruiser that did that. I had an FJ Cruiser. I would tow like four-wheelers and stuff up north. Love that truck, but man, I was stopping like every 120 miles or something stupid. I don't know. No fun at all, and no thanks. And then watching what they're going through, driving, I don't want to do that right now. Give it a few more years. I just set reasonable goals and say we do care about the environment, but this is the pace that technology and manufacturing is allowing us to go, versus trying to cram this stuff down people's throats that A, many can't afford, and B, infrastructure-wise, just doesn't make sense. But anyways, that's all I got for extra insights and a little bit of a recap on episode 89 of the All In Pod.